Now, one of the more unique transformations of an Australian company in the past decade is that of our largest brickmaker, Brickworks. And for an old-fashioned business, its newfound success has everything to do with the digital economy and online retailing. Around 15 years ago, the management of Brickworks, Australia's largest brickmaker, had an epiphany. They realised that while making bricks is lucrative, the ground on which its future quarries sit is much more valuable, especially when converted into sites for giant warehouses. And that's what happened. Think Amazon, DHL, Coles, Costco, Linfox, Toyota, and dozens more. Their distribution centres in the west of Sydney are some of the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. You almost need to see it to understand the scale. And they all sit on land that Brickworks owns and is developing in a joint venture with Goodman Group. Today, Brickworks' property portfolio generates almost 5 times the amount of money that its brickmaking operations do. The land, just 30 years ago, was virtually worthless. Now, it's valued at around $10 million a hectare. Even Brickworks' traditional business, now 75 years old, has morphed into something more modern. Its masonry and brickworks are both being rebuilt and thoroughly modernised. The company says the brick plant will be the most advanced ever completed. The people who make the bricks, once blue-collar manual labourers, are now highly skilled technical operators who can run the robotic plant almost single-handedly, compared with hundreds of workers who once made the bricks on the same site. Yet Brickworks still has to deal with the economics of making the raw materials to create our homes and our infrastructure. Its key input is energy, and it's many times more expensive in Australia compared with the US, where Brickworks also has a series of plants. This week I sat down with the man who's overseen this transformation, Brickworks' 20-year CEO, Lindsay Partridge.
For once in my life, it's all running our way. The industrial sheds, it's embarrassing, the demand for those, and that's all driven by the fact that people can't go to a shop. Up until recently, they've got to buy online. People want houses, they don't want apartments. That's coming our way. Now we're in a very good spot.
Okay, so then is everything genuinely going your way? Are there any hurdles that you've got to get over right now?
Yes, definitely the supply line is a bit of an issue, and it's a concern because it comes from nowhere. All of a sudden there's a problem. A great example is we bring in cement, powdered cement. We were paying $8,000 to $9,000 a day US for the shipping. We're now paying $40,000 a day for shipping. So that's a huge explosive costs. And so with increased demand, we've put some of our supply lines to the test, and products that we bring in from Italy, we bring a lot of premium products in from Italy. We're currently quoting 6 months delivery.
Wow, so that's obviously something that other companies are also seeing all around the world. Central banks right now have got a dilemma. Do they actually look through these supply line constraints, the price increases, which is what our Reserve Bank is doing, or do they have to act? And this is one of the real problems, because if that inflation gets baked in, everybody's costs rise in the future.
Yes, I think the one thing they're really missing in that discussion is that we've got an absolute massive shortage of labour, and everyone's had, for the first time since the end of World War II, 2 years to go reassess their lives, and they've come out, I don't like working for this company. So we're both losing good people but getting good people, but overall we're short. And we can't and won't be able to, going forward, meet the demands unless we get the immigrants coming in again in big numbers to make up for the shortage of labour that we have. Otherwise there's going to be inflation and interest rates will have to go up.
Okay, so a few years ago I remember you told me at some of your brickworks, because obviously over a period of time it's been automated, but the average worker in those brickworks, specialist, skilled, $150,000 for a brickworker. That seems a pretty expensive number to me 2 years ago. What's it like now?
Yeah, well, they normally join us and they never leave. They work for us their lifetime, and well, they could earn north of 200, but this week we lost 5 electricians from one of our plants. In Western Australia, where the demand from the mines is, they're paying much more than that, and we're losing them.
So you're losing workers, and of course there's nobody there to immediately replace them while the borders are closed. That's the dilemma.
We train as many as we can. We've got lots of apprentices, we've got lots of young graduates coming through, but we can't recover from this rate of turnover that we're seeing at the moment.
Okay, so is the answer, as you point out, to open the borders to allow a lot of skilled labour into this country over a very short period of time? Because after all, being relatively coronavirus free, Australia will be attractive.
Yeah, well, if you look at it, we're really 500,000 people short. They're the people that didn't come in the last 18 months. And so we have to catch up, and the economy's still continue to grow. There's pressure everywhere.
So that gets me thinking, if 500,000 people come to Australia, they need houses.
Yes.
You actually build the bricks that make those houses.
Yes, I know. Yeah, sweet spot, I guess you could say. But there's a bit of a trend there. People don't want to live in apartments anymore. I mean, maybe the students will live in an apartment, or migrants, when they first turn up, they've got to rent somewhere. But people want to live in a house. They prefer to live in the country. I can work from anywhere, so why not work from the country? So we're seeing all these little towns up and down the coast have got housing estates that wouldn't have had them in 50 years.
So that's a change, a cultural change. I mean, Brickworks has been, as the biggest brickmaker in Australia, around for more than 100 years doing this. I mean, you almost, if you like, plot the trends of Australia's population growth.
Yeah, this is a seismic shift, though. You've got the two things happening together. It's a seismic shift. Most probably there hasn't been this sort of shock to the general psyche of the Australian population since the end of World War I or World War II. There's no real event that I can think of that's had people locked up for 2 years to reassess themselves. So clearly there's a lot of decisions going to come out of that, and we haven't seen the end of it yet.
But there's even the future of work, and that is you can see offices now lying empty because people are now working from home. People work from home, want a bigger space to be in, so they go back to houses.
Well, that's right. You know, the new display homes have got two studies, his and hers. They have to, and apartments need to be bigger because you've got to have a study. People, even if they are coming to work, they want to work from home 1 or 2 days a week. That's just the way of the new world.
What about competitiveness in Australia right now? Because again, one of the conversations you and I have had in the past is about Australia lacking competitiveness in terms of wages and in terms of energy prices in particular. How do they sit for you right now?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting subject. I mean, we're very productive in Australia in our brick business. We're very energy efficient. But if you convert it either into Australian dollars or US dollars, our top 3 or 4 factories in America make bricks for less.
Okay, so they make bricks for less, but the reality is it's probably easier once transport costs get involved to still make the bricks here in Australia. You're still investing in Brickworks here, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen a lot of domestic transport, particularly in the US, go up, putting costs on that area, but still we've got low gas prices. Wages can be low, but the average person in America is most probably getting $13,000 to $15,000 in health benefits included in their wage, whereas the average Australian is most probably only about $4,000. So there's a difference in what they take home, and people think about the US wages being cheap, but overall in Australian dollars or US dollars, whichever way you want to convert it, they work out about the same.
These distribution centres on these future quarries, the goods are going to the homes of the people with the bricks that you've made.
Yeah, and look, and the other thing that might not be understood is that we don't need the amount of quarries we needed before because we have a higher and higher percentage of recycled material into our bricks. For example, at the moment, we're getting all the spoil out of the Cross River Rail in Brisbane. It's coming to the Brickworks, and that will keep us there making bricks for 20 years just for that material. So more and more recycled material. We don't need as much reserves as we did historically.
Lindsay, Partridge, always great to have a chat to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.